Viktor Gyökeres has finally picked his new club. Salah's comments have absolutely wrecked Liverpool fans. Could a Liverpool legend be on his way out? Neymar back to Barcelona. Is it really happening? Plus, Chelsea's just pulled off a double signing. We're diving into all of this and plenty more today. You ready to get into it? Let's roll! Mohamed Salah, a living legend of Liverpool, isn't just disappointed, as he himself put it, but, to put it mildly, furious that the club doesn't seem to be in a hurry to sit down at the negotiating table for a new contract. Just think about it. The Premier League leader, a team that supposedly aims for the highest places, risks losing its most valuable player. It would be funny if it weren't so sad. Now, imagine the scene. Liverpool has just barely escaped defeat, thanks, of course, to Mo. And there he is at the stadium exit. Salah himself. And you know what? He decided to talk. And that, believe me, is a rare occurrence. Mo is not one to throw words to the wind. It became clear things had piled up. And then, like a bolt from the blue, he declares, "Guys, it's almost December and no one has offered me a new contract. It seems like I'm not needed here." Can you imagine the effect this had? Liverpool fans were already on edge, worried about the future of the team, and then this news. But Salah didn't stop there. He added that he wants to stay, that he loves the club, but he says, "It's not in my hands." That is, the man is directly saying, "I'm ready to play, I want to play, but it seems like no one is listening to me." He even joked, or maybe not joked, that he's not planning to retire yet, hinting that he feels great and is ready to work hard for many more years. Honestly, I understand him. He's a star, he's a talisman, he's a goal-scoring machine. And what does he see in return? Silence. And this is after he has pulled the team out of, to put it mildly, not the most pleasant situations more than once or twice. Let's recall the backstory. Michael Edwards and Richard Hughes seemingly had every right to wait until Salah fully recovered from the injury that undoubtedly took a toll on him at the end of last season. And perhaps they shouldn't have immediately rushed to offer him a new, even fatter contract. And he is already the highest paid player in the club's history. But then the preseason passed and it became obvious. Salah is fine, he's ready to tear it up again, so why is there still no offer? This is where the main problem lies. FSG is now in a very weak position. If they don't re-sign Salah, they will face a real hell from enraged fans who are already unhappy with their frugality. And starting January 1st, Salah can freely negotiate with other clubs. Can you imagine what's going on in the minds of the fans? Disappointment, fear, anger, the whole set. Of course, there are rumours in the club that the first negotiations were positive and that they are continuing. But this whole situation, when a player is forced to air dirty laundry in public, suggests that something clearly went wrong. Ideally, Salah's future should have been decided back in the summer. If Edwards and Hughes believed he wasn't worth a new contract, he should have been sold while there was demand. And, as we know, there is. Saudi Arabia has long dreamed of getting Mo. And if they wanted to keep him, they should have done it on time to avoid this circus. Liverpool is famous for its skillful work behind the scenes. They masterfully conduct transfers, but in the case of Salah's contract, this secrecy is playing against them. In Italy and Spain, sporting directors communicate with the press almost every day, talking about the current situation. In this case, such transparency would be very useful. And now the main question, what the hell is going on at Anfield? And the fact is that no one except the club's employees knows the answer. Personally, it seems to me that FSG will still offer Salah a new contract. They simply can't afford to lose him. But on what terms? And how long will this uncertainty last? Perhaps they will try to lower the price, taking advantage of the situation, but this will be a very risky step. Salah is not a player who can be easily pushed against the wall. Most likely, we will see the signing of a new contract in the near future. But with what mood Salah will take the field after that is a big question. And what do you think? Share your opinion in the comments. It will be very interesting to hear your point of view. It seems Barcelona is plotting a grand return for their prodigal son. Neymar Jr., the very player who once dazzled at Camp Nou, might just pull on the Blaugrana jersey once more. Can you imagine? Here's the scoop. Neymar's father, who also acts as his agent, supposedly let slip that Neymar will become a free agent in the summer of 2025. Currently, he's playing in Saudi Arabia for Al Hilal, raking in the cash. But contracts don't last forever, do they? And that's where Barcelona's ears perked up. They're in need of a left winger, and what an opportunity this presents to snag a world-class star practically for free. Of course, Neymar's 32 now, not exactly a spring chicken, to put it mildly. And let's be honest, injuries haven't exactly steered clear of him, but on the flip side, he's Neymar. The technique, the dribbling, the vision, he's still got it all. And crucially, he's already played for Barcelona, knows the style, knows the teammates. He'd practically need zero adaptation time. Neymar's father, by the way, is convinced his son still has plenty to show. He always comes back better than he was, he says. Well, we'll see about that. And what about Barcelona? They certainly have a lot to consider. On one hand, he's a top-tier player, and the fans would be ecstatic. On the other hand, there's the age, the injuries, and the salary, which is sure to be hefty, even if he comes as a free agent. Signing bonuses, performance incentives, all of that needs to be factored in. The club's management will have to rack their brains, weighing up all the pros and cons. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Neymar's father has apparently admitted that leaving Barcelona wasn't, shall we say, the best decision. Better late than never, right? He truly shone at Barcelona, part of the legendary MSN trio. He could have been Messi's heir, but he chose the money. Who can blame him? Everyone is the architect of their own fortune. But now, seeing Messi winning trophies in the USA and Neymar playing in Saudi Arabia, you start to wonder, was it worth it? Maybe it really is better to play for a top club for less money than in an exotic league for millions. So, picture this. Neymar returns to Barcelona. The stands roar, the fans are in ecstasy. He puts on the Blaugrana jersey again and steps onto the Camp Nou pitch. It's a beautiful story, isn't it? But that's just one possible scenario. What will actually happen? Only time will tell. The transfer window hasn't opened yet, negotiations are just beginning. But one thing's for sure, it won't be boring. We'll be following the developments and keeping you updated. For now, all we can do is guess and speculate. What do you think about it? Let us know in the comments. Just imagine, a cold wind is sweeping through the stands of the José Alvalade Stadium, and somewhere in the VIP box, serious-looking men from Manchester City are sitting. Like hawks, they are watching Viktor Gyökeres, the Swedish striker who, well, to put it mildly, is on fire this season. 30 goals, just think about it. And now the citizens, apparently, have decided that they really need this guy. Honestly, at first, I thought, here we go again. These sheikhs throwing money around. You know, a €100 million release clause is no joke. But then I remembered Hugo Viana. This guy is currently the sporting director of Sporting, and from next season, he's supposedly moving to City to replace Begiristain himself. And that's when the puzzle starts to come together. Viana himself brought Gyökeres to Sporting, so he must see something special in him. Maybe he really will become the secret weapon everyone is talking about. Imagine, Viana calls Viktor and says, "Come on man, join us, we'll win trophies together." How can you refuse? But wait, it's not that simple. Sporting are no pushovers. €100 million is €100 million. Okay, maybe we'll settle for 80, they seem to be saying, but I think they won't agree to anything less than 90. And rightly so, in our time, no amount of money is too much for a good striker, especially since they say there's already a queue forming for Gyökeres. Chelsea, Arsenal, these London clubs are always eager for a bargain. And then there's Manchester United looming on the horizon. I wonder, what does Viktor himself want? On the one hand, the guy doesn't hide the fact that he dreams of the Premier League. City, of course, is a fantastic option. Guardiola, De Bruyne, trophies. But on the other hand, Gyökeres probably wants to play regularly, not sit on the bench behind Haaland. So there's a dilemma: money and titles with City, or a guaranteed place in the starting lineup, but perhaps without the same ambition at Arsenal or Chelsea. By the way, what's the situation with Chelsea's finances? Remember how they were buying everyone in the summer? Do they have enough left for another Swedish striker? A rhetorical question, of course. And yet, my intuition tells me that Viana will play a key role in this story. Well, you have to agree. It's nice to work with someone who believes in you, who discovered you. And City is still City after all. Imagine Gyökeres, Haaland, Foden in attack. Scary? To me, yes. I think the citizens will do everything possible to get the Swede. Perhaps they'll even agree to the full €100 million, and Sporting, I'm sure, will try to squeeze the maximum out of them. By the way, they say that City doesn't plan to spend much in the winter. They say they'll only buy a defensive midfielder to replace Rodri. Well, I agree with that. Why buy a striker for €100 million in the winter if you can calmly negotiate with Gyökeres in the summer? And let's be honest, prices are always inflated in January. So we're waiting for the summer, friends. It's going to be hot, I promise you. This transfer saga promises to be one of the most interesting in recent years. Personally, I'm betting that Gyökeres will end up at Manchester City. Too many factors point to this move. But, as they say, we'll wait and see. In the meantime, share your thoughts in the comments on where you see Gyökeres, and don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. We work for you. It seems we have a developing drama involving Chelsea and Barcelona. The Blues, seemingly just starting to recover from a couple of, shall we say, less than stellar seasons, have decided they desperately need to bolster their defence. And who have they targeted? Two of Barca's stars, Ronald Araujo and Jules Koundé. Todd Boehly, the American billionaire, appears ready to splash a hefty £125 million for the defensive duo. Money talks, as they say. But the question is, do they really need them? Chelsea's defence doesn't seem to be struggling. Levi Colwill and Wesley Fofana are reportedly performing admirably, having logged enough minutes to practically become one with the Stamford Bridge turf. So why spend such a fortune? Ah yes, Reece James, captain, right back and, concurrently, a frequent resident of the club's medical facility. It's understandable that Boehly wants insurance. Koundé, after all, is proficient both in central defence and as cover for James on the right flank. A versatile player in short. And Araujo is every coach's dream. Powerful, reliable, a true rock. But here's the catch. Barcelona won't let their stars go easily. Hansi Flick, the Catalan coach, is heavily reliant on Koundé. And Araujo, having just recovered from injury, is unlikely to want a change of scenery. Furthermore, Barca are currently fighting for the La Liga title and dreaming of Champions League glory. Transfers are hardly a priority with such prestigious trophies at stake. And this brings us to the most intriguing aspect: finances. Barcelona, to put it mildly, aren't exactly swimming in cash. They're reportedly grappling with debts, loans, and other financial woes. Then, £125 million from Chelsea appears on the horizon. Imagine the temptation. It could solve a mountain of problems in one fell swoop. But on the other hand, selling two key players is a gamble. What if the team falls apart without them? This creates a dilemma. On one hand, they desperately need the money. On the other, their sporting ambitions remain. What will Barcelona choose? Their heart or their wallet? What if Barca win the league and cup? Theoretically, they'd receive substantial prize money, easing their financial burden. They might then be able to refuse Chelsea's offer. But what if not? What if the season ends in disappointment? Then I fear Barcelona will have to part with some of their stars, and Chelsea will be right there, suitcase of cash in hand. Personally, I don't think there will be a transfer in the winter window. Barcelona will hold on to their players until the bitter end. However, everything could change in the summer. If Chelsea haven't changed their minds, and if Barca can't improve their financial situation, the deal could very well happen. Imagine Araujo and Koundé in Chelsea blue. A formidable defence, wouldn't you agree? And Reece James could finally recover in peace, knowing he has reliable cover. But what about Barcelona? What will become of them? Will they be able to find adequate replacements for their stars, or will they have to start from scratch? In short, there are more questions than answers. But one thing is certain, we're in for a captivating sequel to this story. Chelsea are splashing the cash again, and this time they're making waves. They've set their sights on Alexander Isak, the Swedish sensation from Newcastle United. And Arsenal, true to form, are also lurking, licking their lips at the prospect of signing him. Talk about competition, right? Isak, it must be said, is quite the player. At just 25, he's already one of the Premier League's top strikers. But it seems St James's Park is starting to feel a bit small for him. The lad wants to play in the Champions League, lift trophies, and Newcastle, frankly, aren't quite there yet. Well, ambition is a good thing. No one can argue with that. The Magpies, of course, are reluctant to let their star go. They're offering him a new contract, a lucrative one, loaded with zeros. But Isak, it appears, is turning his nose up at it. He's not impressed, you see. He probably senses that the grass is greener elsewhere, and that's where Chelsea have stepped in. Maresca is dreaming of a world-class striker, and Isak is the perfect candidate. Or one of them, at least. They've made inquiries, as they call it, done their due diligence. And Newcastle, surprisingly, are open to discussing a transfer. But only for a monstrous offer. £115 million, not a penny less. Think of how many players you could buy with that kind of money. An entire team. But Newcastle are shrewd operators. They know what they're doing. They understand that Isak is a golden asset. Even if he doesn't renew his contract, he's their player until 2028. So, they're in the driving seat. And that £115 million, well, that's just a starting point. It's not guaranteed they'll let him go, even for that much. And Arsenal, as I mentioned, are right there in the mix. Isak is their dream signing. Can you believe it? Jesus apparently isn't cutting it, not scoring enough goals. They need someone who can consistently find the back of the net. And Isak, in their opinion, is just what the doctor ordered. So we have a battle of the titans brewing. Chelsea versus Arsenal for the Swedish Viking. Who will offer the most money? Who will be the most persuasive? It's a real nail-biter. After all, Isak scored 25 goals last season across all competitions. He's a goal-scoring machine, not just a man. Imagine how he could transform Chelsea. Jackson, to his credit, is working hard, but he needs help. And Isak isn't just a goal scorer, he can shrug off defenders like bowling pins and come up with creative solutions. With him, Chelsea's attack would take on a whole new dimension. But £115 million? That's a fortune. Are Chelsea and Arsenal willing to pay that much? That's the million-dollar question. And Newcastle, I think, have set that price for a reason. They know Isak is invaluable. They're rich now, they can afford not to sell their best players. They want to build a team, win trophies, and Isak is a key figure in their plans. So what happens next? We can speculate all day long, of course. Maybe Chelsea will bite the bullet and pay that crazy £115 million, or maybe Arsenal will come up with some clever scheme. With bonuses, player exchanges, who knows? Or maybe Isak will have a change of heart, decide that Newcastle is his destiny, and stay to become a club legend, like Alan Shearer, for example. Imagine that twist. In short, there are a ton of possible scenarios. It seems a significant shift might be on the horizon for Marcus Rashford, the young forward who's undeniably experiencing a challenging period at Manchester United, appears to have caught the eye of Paris Saint-Germain. And you know, I'm starting to think this might just be for the best. Cast your mind back to his debut under Van Gaal at United. Rashford burst onto the scene like a breath of fresh air. Everyone gasped. Here was a new talent to behold, but since then, it's been a rollercoaster ride, to say the least. Flashes of brilliance, sure, but consistency? Non-existent. This season, for example, he's managed 5 goals and 3 assists. Not terrible, but for a player of his caliber, it's frankly underwhelming. Enter PSG. The French giants seem genuinely concerned about finding a new striker. With Mbappe's departure, they've been left with a void the size of the Eiffel Tower. Kolo Muani and Gonzalo Ramos, brought in to fill the gap, have, to put it mildly, failed to impress so far. And so, PSG's gaze has turned towards Rashford. Rumour has it that Luis Enrique, the PSG manager, is a huge admirer of the Englishman's talent. He's reportedly confident that he can restore Rashford to his former glory and reignite his spark. But what about Rashford himself? On one hand, he's undoubtedly loyal to United, the club where he grew up. And the new manager, Amorim, seems to be counting on him. But on the other hand, how long can he endure this instability? PSG represents a chance to wipe the slate clean, compete in the Champions League, and fight for trophies. Not to mention, the salary would likely be considerably more attractive. Speaking of money, Rashford's transfer fee could be substantial for PSG. Given his age and potential, the price tag could be sky high. But for PSG, with their sheikh-backed wealth, that's probably not a major obstacle. Here's my take. If PSG is truly serious and Rashford is looking to reboot his career, this transfer could very well happen. Of course, all of this is just speculation and rumours for now. But as they say, where there's smoke, there's fire. And who knows, we might just see Marcus Rashford in a PSG shirt come January. What do you think? Would he suit the Parisian chic?